Hello, everyone, to everyone who's listening into this session. It's wonderful to be back again at the WEF. This is my third time on this platform, and I'm happy to note that in spite of COVID and the consequent digitization of this event, the excitement and positive energy around here is exactly the same. And I've been looking at all the videos from yesterday as well, and it's fantastic how lively this entire platform is. My talk today is on social responsibility, or more accurately, citizen social responsibility. Contrary to instructions that I've received, I'm going to take this opportunity to present a critique of the manner in which concepts of social responsibility have been blurred over the years, and how, in my humble yet opinionated view, the need that exists is to go much further than even just citizens and work towards inculcating social responsibility in each and every human being. Therefore, embarking upon a mission for humanity, just like we at the Eight Goals One Foundation have done, right? And I will not infringe upon the copyright that Ms. Charu ma'am has on individual social responsibility, but that's really what the point here is, right? My biggest grouse against the use of the word citizen is that it's a political construct with no other material purpose than to serve the governments of our world and provide them with the validity which they thereafter use to not only make far-reaching decisions that impact all of us, but also our planet as a whole. If you take that away from the understanding of a citizen, it becomes very, very clear that all other rules and regulations that are otherwise linked to being a citizen can very well be made applicable on residents as well. Unfortunately, and since we are at the Women Economic Forum, women were perhaps the very first superset of human beings that experienced a similar ploy to create differentiation and discrimination through a socially and politically motivated construct. This construct is also what I believe, very personally, to be at the genus of all discriminatory practices across the world. The construct I'm talking about is, of course, gender and the consequent gender roles that have been passed on ever since men and women began their journey on Earth. Now, before I get sidetracked and start talking about the problems I have with the way that society has used gender to discriminate between human beings, let's get back to the problems that the concept of CSR brings forth, irrespective of whether the moniker is being made applicable to corporates, as was done traditionally, or citizens, as it seems to be being done now. Pinning the responsibility towards society to large corporates is, in my opinion, as antithetical as voluntarily giving a criminal a get out of jail free card before they're convicted. For every one company that truly cares for society and undertakes CSR from the goodness of their hearts, there are the other 99 that actively use it to hide the wrongs that they have done, change public perception about themselves, use it as a means for furthering marketing of their products and services, and more frequently, as I know very personally, to circle money back to themselves. Just like the term citizens, the terms corporations emanated from politics, insofar as those in power sought to ring fence the activities done by them in the course of business from themselves, giving a non-living entity an independent juristic identity has ensured that business owners no longer need to worry about humanity and can therefore sleep peacefully, knowing that their actions are not by them, but this dehumanized version of themselves that has been recognized by politicians as a separate entity through the laws that they've enacted. At the core of this issue is the fact that all corporations are driven by commerce. That in itself is not a bad thing. But if you move forward, commerce is driven by consumer behavior. And consequently, the key objective of any corporation is to manipulate consumer behavior towards increased and repeated consumption. Of course, the companies spin it in a completely different way to make it appear as if this is not so. More often than not, CSR is one of those ways with which they spin it. Dow Chemicals, the ones who caused the Bhopal gas tragedy, Union Carbide, to which some of my mother's closest friends lost their near and dear ones, and many continue to suffer till date. Dow Chemicals, on the other hand, is part of a $30 billion empire. And in spite of many more transgressions around the world, its shareholders, directors, and employees all continue to make tremendous profits and revenues from these disasters. British Petroleum was responsible for an oil spill whereby over 200 million gallons of crude oil was pumped into the Gulf of Mexico for 87 days. British Petroleum is a $60 billion company. This wasn't the first time they were responsible for an oil spill either. Every time they paid their way through legally through and turned public perception through their CSR. Purdue Pharma was responsible for misrepresenting OxyContin, an opioid, which is a class of drugs to whom I have lost my friends. It has contributed to a third and a half of all drug-related deaths globally. Cocaine, you talk about everything. OxyContin has contributed to a third and a half of all drug-related deaths in the world. Yet Purdue Pharma, that one company, there are many others as well, is a $3 billion company. While Purdue was charged for their misrepresentation, right? And while that was happening in court, they continued to book more than $1 billion in annual sales for the drug in that year. The point is that humans make citizens and citizens make corporations. What all of these examples show us is the fact that pinning responsibility only on a juristic identity leads to actively dehumanizing social and societal responsibilities, which is why it is important to strip away these identities that differentiate and let humans help other humans. Therefore, to broaden the parameters of this talk beyond just corporates and citizens, I would like to introduce the concept of human social responsibility, just like Charu ma'am has individual social responsibility, and I believe we speak of the same thing. For it is only the humanity in us that has the capability to work without the end goal of profits, contribute without mandates, and not capitalize at the expense of other humans. Did you know, and a few more examples since I do have a bit of time, did you know that mental disorders don't require treatment via medication in all cases? In fact, according to many, many academic studies that have been buried under seas of other medical studies, consumptions of micronutrients are at least equally, if not more effective in dealing with the symptoms related to mental diseases like ADHD and post-traumatic stress disorder, etc. However, you don't very often see advertisements or prescriptions of micronutrients being handed out to individuals with mental disorders. Did you know that menstrual blood is nutritious enough to serve as an organic fertilizer for plants? It's the most nutritious blood that either a man or a woman ever has in their body. With the presence of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, menstrual blood can provide nutrition to plants, which equals the nutrition provided by organic fertilizers. However, I've personally never heard an advertisement marketing menstrual cups even, right? Let alone anything else. Where would corporates be if they did not provide short-term solutions that set up long-term problems, which in turn find their solution in consumer-based products? Corporates are and always will be driven by commerce and consumer behavior. This has set off a race of benefiting of humans, whereby the winner is inevitably that entity which has mastered that art of manipulating customers, or more accurately, human behavior. In an attempt to balance this, corporate social responsibility is now a legally binding mandate based on certain financial parameters. In India, the corporates need to meet a requisite benchmark and are required to set aside 2% of their earnings and contribute it towards the betterment of society. This contribution to society has never been silent, especially when the opportunity to benefit of marketing these contributions can potentially turn into profits. The unending cycle that is then perpetuated is one that begins with generating profits at the expense of humanity, devoting a minute percentage of those profits towards the betterment of humanity, which in turn is utilized to generate more profits by appealing to humanity. Legally created identities require legally binding mandates to ensure a contribution of this 2%. Appealing to the humanity of humans, on the other hand, requires only an appeal which can lead to an untapped amount of social responsibility, which need not be forced or limited. Now, admittedly, while the shift to citizen social responsibility is a shift that is centered around human beings at the end of the day, right? It is still not one that puts humanity at the forefront, right? And that's where my problem is. Consider those individuals who live in countries they're not citizens of. Do they not have a responsibility towards society irrespective of their citizenship? Should they not constantly strive to be responsible humans that aim to contribute to society? consider those individuals who have been displaced and stripped of their citizenship due to the forces beyond themselves? Should they not belong and contribute to a society which constantly strives for betterment and the upliftment of each other? Citizenship, like corporations, restricts us. It binds us to geographical boundaries. It actively prevents us from working towards betterment when we can, where we can, however we can. I can tell that I'm running out of time now, so I will
No,
leave you.
no, you can continue. That's fine. We still have some more time left, so that's fine.
So broadly, at the end, really just what I want to say, right? And I'm happy to take questions at the end of this if we still have more time. Is that for us to do better, and this is really my message, right? We don't just need to change the angle from which we approach social responsibility. We need to change our entire perspective. So let's look beyond classifications, corporations, citizens, beyond mandates, beyond boundaries, and embrace that one trait that is common, that makes us who we are across the world. Let's live as humans. Let's undertake social responsibility and with humanity at the forefront. It's only then, and as I told you in the beginning, I have nothing against corporations, right? I have nothing against governments, but it's only then that these corporations and governments, citizens can achieve during the day and still sleep peacefully during the nights. That's, as of right now, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.